Commander Silthanis had seen warships from across the galaxy during her 2 centuries of service in the Confederation Navy. She had witnessed the elegant crystal spires of Altarian vessels, marveled at the bioorganic curves of Zephyrian living ships, and respected the geometric precision of mechanoid constructs. Each design reflected its creator's philosophy: art, harmony with nature, mathematical perfection. Nothing had prepared her for what emerged from the quantum tunnel at the edge of the Kepler system. Tactical report, she commanded from the bridge of her flagship, the Stellar Harmony, trying to keep the uncertainty from her voice. Her crew of mixed alien species worked their stations with practiced efficiency, but she could sense their growing unease. Single vessel, Commander, reported Navigation Officer Keithvar, his forearms dancing across the sensor array. Length approximately 2 kilometers, configuration unknown. It's not matching any ship class in our databases. The main holographic display materialized the sensor data, and Silthanis felt her 3 hearts skip in synchronized terror. The ship was wrong in every conceivable way. Where civilized vessels featured flowing lines and aesthetic considerations, this thing was purely functional, angular, brutal, and covered in what could only be weapons. Analysis of the vessel's design? She asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Chief Science Officer Morlock, a crystalline entity whose faceted body normally refracted light in beautiful patterns, had gone dull with shock. Commander, this design philosophy is unlike anything we've encountered. Every surface appears optimized for combat efficiency. I'm detecting weapons emplacements numbering in the hundreds, armor plating that's thicker than some space stations, and energy signatures suggesting power output beyond theoretical maximums. Silthanis studied the display more carefully, noting details that made her skin crawl. The ship's hull was scarred and battle-worn, but not from damage from deliberate design. What she had initially taken for decorative elements were actually weapon mounts, sensor arrays, and defensive systems integrated so seamlessly that the entire vessel was essentially a weapon wrapped around an engine. "Who builds something like this?" whispered her communications officer, a peaceful empathic whose species had never known warfare. The answer came through their communication system in a voice that was calm, professional, and somehow more terrifying than any threatening roar could have been. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of the UES Retribution. Confederation vessels, you are operating in proximity to human territorial space. State your intentions." Commander Silthanis struggled to find her voice. In all her years of first contact protocols, she had never encountered a species that opened communications by mentioning their ship's weapons capabilities, which the name Tribution clearly implied. "This is Commander Silthanis of the Confederation vessel Stellar Harmony," she replied, fighting to maintain diplomatic composure. "We are conducting routine patrol operations. We were not aware this system was claimed." "Claimed is not accurate," Captain Webb replied. "This system is under human protection due to the presence of a developing civilization on the 4th planet. We're ensuring they're not interfered with during their cultural evolution." The casual mention of protecting primitive species sent chills through the bridge crew. Most galactic civilizations had protocols for non-interference, but the way this human spoke suggested active enforcement rather than mere observation. "May we inquire about the specifications of your vessel?" Commander Silthanis asked, unable to suppress her professional curiosity despite her growing fear. "The Retribution is a Nemesis-class heavy cruiser," Captain Webb replied matter-of-factly. "Primary armament includes 12 quantum torpedo tubes, 8 particle beam arrays, 4 gravitational destabilizers, and a spinal-mounted antimatter cannon. Defensive systems include adaptive armor plating, emergency regenerative hulls, and quantum interference shields." The bridge fell silent as the translator system struggled to process weapon types that existed nowhere in Confederation databases. Officer Kethvar looked up from his station, his compound eyes wide with disbelief. "Commander," he whispered, "according to our analysis, those weapons specifications suggest this single vessel could engage our entire fleet simultaneously." "That's not possible," Silthanis replied. But even as she said it, she was studying the human ship's profile and beginning to understand the horrible truth. "Captain Webb," she ventured, "your vessel appears to be heavily armed for an exploration ship." The human's laugh was not the harmonious sound her species produced, but something that spoke of predators who found amusement in dangerous situations. "Commander, the Retribution isn't an exploration ship. It's a warship. Exploration vessels are handled by our science division. This is a military patrol." "Military patrol?" Commander Silthanis felt her command training desert her. "You patrol with vessels designed purely for warfare." "Standard doctrine," Captain Webb confirmed. "The galaxy can be a dangerous place. We've learned it's better to be prepared for trouble than to hope it won't find you." The implications hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. They were looking at a species that built warships as their standard response to the unknown, that considered weapons like gravitational destabilizers and antimatter cannons to be routine equipment, and that spoke of violence with the casual professionalism other species reserve for discussing the weather. "Commander," Officer Morlack said quietly, his crystalline form flickering with patterns of deep distress, "I'm detecting energy readings that suggest this vessel's power core could supply our entire home system." Captain Webb's voice returned to their speakers. "Commander Silthanis, you and your fleet are welcome to continue your patrol, but I'd recommend maintaining distance from the protected system. Not for our sake, we don't mind company, but because your ship's energy signatures might interfere with the primitive civilization's natural development." The casual dismissal of their military capability, the polite concern for primitive aliens, and the underlying implication that their fleet was no more threatening than background radiation finally broke through Commander Silthanis' shock. "Understood, Captain Webb," she managed. "We'll continue our patrol in a different sector." "Appreciated, Commander." Safe travels. As the human warship began moving away, its massive bulk shifting with surprising grace, Commander Silthanis realized her entire crew was staring at the display in stunned silence. "Navigation," she said quietly. "Set course for home. Priority transmission to Confederation Command." "What should the message say, Commander?" Officer Kethvar asked. Silthanis watched the human vessel disappear into the vast darkness of space, carrying with it the most terrifying realization of her career. They had just met a species that built ships like the Retribution not as dreadnoughts or flagships, but as routine patrol vessels. "Tell them," she said, "that we've encountered a species that treats warfare as an engineering problem. And they appear to have solved it."